What is a double standard that is seen positively when women do it but negatively when men do it? Childcare. When my son was little, I was a parent, but my husband, if I left him alone with the child he helped create, he was babysitting according to anyone who asked me where my son was. Also, I always got comments like, "Oh, your house is going to be a mess when you get home. Did you tell him what to feed him?" Might as well add taking the kid to the park on a weekday. It was always 15 minutes of being watched like I was going to kidnap someone, and then the moms there would warm up and think it was cute that I was spending the day with my son and that I am also the one that packed snacks and lunch, too. Anything kids related. I actually like kids and think it's fun to play with them within the given social boundaries. I often go out of my way to avoid interacting with them though, not to be seen as a pedophile or a kidnapper. I have a lot of very young kids come up to me and talk to me about fishing when I am out and ask me questions on what I use my different rods for, fly rods, conventional gear, etc. Some parents will go absolutely ballistic to their children, and I have seen a case where the parents were completely fine with kids talking to women who are also fishing or taking photos, etc. I was at a beach that had some small waves rolling in, and there was a little girl playing in the sand. A bigger wave came in and crashed over her head as she was sitting down and rolled her in the surf next to me as I was walking out. I hesitated very briefly to pick her up, but seeing her in distress, I picked her up and held her up at arm's length until I could find her parents. Her mom came rushing up and grabbed her, giving me very suspicious and dirty looks. I explained what happened and they were very nice and grateful, but I felt like I had somehow done something wrong. As a teenager, I went to a nail salon with my dad and convinced him to get a mani-pedi with me. It was like they never saw a man get their nails done. He didn't get Polish or anything and they still looked and treated him weird. The other customers and the ladies doing our nails never went back to that place again. Exists near kids. A few years ago, a 14-15-year-old girl who lived over the road from us knocked on our door. She was scared as she had just got home in the dark and her brother was supposed to be home but was out. She thought there was someone else in her house as she could hear banging and shouting. So I went over. She let me in and I hollered and made a load of noise. She asked if we could check upstairs in her bedroom. So I ran up the stairs with her behind me. A little bead of cold sweat trickled down my back as my brain cell came into alignment. What the duck am I doing? I am in a girl's bedroom, alone with her. It's late and dark and I don't know her while my wife is over the road. So I asked her to leave and go sit with my wife while I searched the house. Everything was fine. The house was empty and the girl was grateful. Her dad even came to thank me the next day and mentioned that it might have been awkward. I just hate that I had to think that way and that when a child needed help I had to concern myself with what other people might think. I posted a story a while back about a lost little girl approaching me at a Walmart. That was my first thought too. And I proceeded to help while making it obnoxiously obvious I was not kidnapping her or trying to drag her into a clothing rack. I was more concerned about someone mistaking me for a pedo and me getting assaulted or arrested than I was for a scared little girl. I was once on a vacation with my parents and some family friends. One evening I took some of the smaller children to a market. I was probably 15 and they must have been 11 and 7 maybe. Then suddenly the 7-year-old girl bolts away amidst lots of people in a foreign country. We shout for her and finally catch up, so I throw her over my shoulder as she keeps resisting. Guess what her only word in English was? Oh yes, I was walking away with a small child over my shoulder while she was screaming help from the top of her lungs. Luckily no one thought I was a pedophile. Oh boy did she get in trouble when we got home. Not working. I've heard stories of women who were happy to work and made plenty of money for the both of them while the dad stayed home to take care of the kids. However, it seems like the dad is always chewed out for not working and add more weird things to it. Some of the times women are also chewed out for working while other women make huge deals out of working. So I guess yeah, going against the standard male lead family. When I was the breadwinner people thought it was so weird that I made more money than my husband. He worked. He made decent money too, but I made more. He was shamed by some people for making less than me. My friend is the breadwinner for her family. Her husband injured his back years ago and would rather stay home with their child. She would rather work. It works great for them. When people hear this they think it's so wrong that he doesn't work. I've even heard people say he's lazy or using her. I know it's been said before, but the double standard for female pedos is insane. While men are condemned and ostracized rightfully so, I should add the women pedos get a slap on the wrist and the boys they abused are congratulated and even seen as weak or unmasculine for speaking up. Imagine if a male teacher raped female student and someone told a girl that they were lucky and weren't being a real woman. The internet would explode. When a guy wants to go out and hang with his buddies, but his GF wife says no, everybody understands and deals with it. But when a girl wants to go out and hang with her friends and her BF husband says no, everybody gets concerned. Anecdotal story time. My ex-GF. We had a pretty great relationship. For your information, we've just moved on to different pastures, so to speak. She was much like me in that I don't enjoy going out with friends or really at all. I do, but it's more like an event rather than a let's go browse the mall or go to a restaurant. I learned after all the chaos the events of Dr-Jiggles posts contain, but at the time I had no idea why her friends thought this way. But long story short, she used to go out with them a lot, but basically only did because she had nothing better to do. She didn't enjoy it much. When we got together we became each other's better to do and hung out all the time in our home, playing games or watching movies, etc. But to her friends, I guess understandably so in a way, but I don't like it, thought I was forcing her to stay home and not hang with them. In this case it was more so a miscommunication over weeks, but usually it's the same situation without reason. Too long didn't we GF stopped hanging W friends so much because she started hanging with me. They immediately assumed I was an abusive BF, mentally forcing her to stay home with me, etc. LOL. This is me. My boyfriend is my best friend and my favorite person to spend time with. He's the only one in my life that isn't completely draining. Sure, I like to hang out with friends, but only after a couple hours, and then I need weeks to recharge. Sometimes he needs to spend time with his friends, which is great because that means I get a night to myself. I don't care how it looks to other people. Some of my friends I've needed to take distance from, and that's okay. I love my boyfriend because he makes me laugh. We have the same idea of fun, and I love watching movies or playing video games or camping with him. He makes everything fun. That's what a best friend is too. Being in female-dominated professions like preschool, kindergarten teachers, nannies, nurses, nail technicians, etc., people treat men in these professions like they're either gay, a pervert, or a pedophile, and it's not cool. Male preschool teacher here. With every new hire I have to prove to myself I am competent and not a danger to the kids. Despite 14 years of experience, thankfully parents tend to trust me quicker as I build strong parent-teacher relationships. Same. Every year they give me this speech about hugging the kids. The kids don't hear the speech though, and just run up for a hug anyway. What am I gonna do? Push them away? That's a big investment of trust on their part. Turning it down is like telling them there's no trust between us. I don't buy into that bullshit. I give my students the affection they need. We spend 30 hours a week together. We gotta be good with one another. Every year they give me this speech about hugging the kids. The kids don't hear the speech though, and just run up for a hug anyway. What am I gonna do? Push them away? That's a big investment of trust on their part. Turning it down is like telling them there's no trust between us. As a father who loved and misses participating in class parties and lunch with my son, I miss it too. When I started going for lunch, the kids at the table are so excited to talk. I even got in trouble once for talking when the lights went off, but the principal came and heard we were super excited to be talking about our favorite books. He gave me some recommendations and told us to whisper excitedly next time. The first time a student hugged me, I kind of froze. That hug started a line of huggers. I stopped in the office before I left and talked to the principal to ask what their hug policy was. He told me hugs were fine as long as the student initiates it. The thing that stuck though was he said I never turned down a hug from a student. It might be the only hug the child wants to give that day, and that's not something we should be afraid of. Really caught me off guard. My youngest, 9, has his birthday recently. A lot of school friends showed up, and one girl has been in class with him since kindergarten. She asked if she could give me a hug because she missed them at lunch for the last year. Damn Skippy, you can, little lady. The thing that stuck though was he said I never turned down a hug from a student. It might be the only hug the child wants to give that day, and that's not something we should be afraid of or gets to give. I grew up not being hugged very often, was really sad and ducked with me mentally when teachers refused to give me hugs or say I love you too. When I said it as an educator myself, preschool age, I always return a hug and an I love you. I've had directors get shitty about it, and I've just asked them how would you feel if it came out tomorrow that Hannah was being abused at home and we had never told her we loved her too, and explain my story and say that we can't expect these little people to feel safe and secure in our care if we can't show them how much we do care about them. Fight for custody. A friend of mine got full custody of his kids cause his ex was a total psycho who physically abused the kids, disowned her autistic son, and punched her gay son in the head when he came out. Yet there were still people saying you shouldn't separate a mom from her kids when my friend went to court to get full custody. I am an adult from an incredibly abusive, sociopathic single mother family who left halfway through my senior year of high school. Mother was holistically abusive, but also killed pets, ruined credit, and made up horrible things about me and my sister in order to get attention. Haven't spoken to the monster in 15+ years, though she still brutally harasses my little sister during emotional breakdowns, emails her bosses, boyfriends, etc. with paragraphs of the most insane shit. You wouldn't believe how uppity and aggressive some people get when I say things like I fucking hate my mother or I hope my mother died yesterday. Nearly had an idiot in a bar try to fight me for complaining about some past event because women and mothers are special and their honor must be preserved or something ridiculous. As if just because she raised me to be her child shitbag I'm supposed to be eternally grateful and emotionally manipulated. I hate people that see motherhood as this immaculate marvel that chains children to unchanging toxicity. My mother was a coke addict in the late 80s who ducked an idiot. There was nothing special about it. I find it pretty dumb that it's totally fine for girls to hit slap punch whether joking or not. Physical assault is totally fine and no one thinks anything of it because oftentimes the guy can handle it if it gets out of control, but if the guy were to handle it, he'd be charged with assault and lose his job and friends. Edit took out where I said there's a lot more serious topics. This topic is very serious and I don't take it lightly. Only wrote it because the story I had in mind wasn't as serious as some other stories I read. About 10 years ago now, I had moved into my second rental. My neighbors were two nice dudes and a guy's girlfriend. They would fight. She would beat him and he would stay with her. Dude acted tough but he was a broken man. One day 2 a.m. I hear this banging and screaming on my door. My window smashes. It was him. Half of his face was swollen up and he was screaming, "Call the police." I did. They came and arrested him. Even after hearing the story, his flatmate said she was drunk and took to him with a softball bat. I said that he came around sometimes and confirmed he just takes the beatings. They said it was policy. They had to return later as she was beating his flatmate with a softball bat in the backyard. The flatmate was arrested. After that she left in her boyfriend's car. I moved shortly after this and am still very confused. A bit late to the party, but my GF's sister and her friend stayed with us last week while on a road trip around the country. They went further down south and were expected back a few days later. They decided to extend their stay in another town by a day because of a cute boy they met and wanted to see again. They saw him again as planned, but here's the kick. They didn't speak to him. Instead just looked. Waited today. I learned later that night looked up the manager at the place he worked and spent 2 hours looking through the manager's friends list until they found the cute boy's Facebook, on which they found a link to his Instagram, where they found his Snapchat. Add him. When they do come back to our house and tell us, I point out that if a guy did that it would be considered creepy. To just laugh. Fast forward to that night. They decide as a thank you for letting them stay they take us out to dinner. Midway through dinner they ask if they could take our 6-month-old daughter for a walk as there was a cute boy sitting at the table behind us and they wanted an excuse to get a better look. I say, you mean the one on a date with his GF and her family? They again laugh. Yes, that one. Needless to say, I told them not to involve my daughter in their creepy stalkerish endeavor. But wait, there's more. On the way home from the restaurant, yet another cute boy with a cool car passes us on the highway. They do their creepy giggling and notice the boy takes the same turn off we do. Then down another street. My GF's sister's friend says to me, driving, can you follow him so I can see where he lives? Being an outspoken person I say no. That's ducking weird and really rapey. Again they laugh. GF's sister and friend stalk social media for 2 hours looking for random boy they found cute. Wanted to use my daughter as an excuse to check out a boy on a date and asks me to follow a third boy home so they can see where he lives. Creeps. Edit typed on phone. Apologies for spelling. I mentioned this on another post. Recently, I've been seeing lots of girls I know starting to come out with their sexual assault stories. I've seen a lot of people I know literally get cancelled because of these things, some rightfully so. Other dudes. Honestly, I don't know what is classified as sexual assault anymore. I decided to come out with my own story about the time I was sexually assaulted by 2 women who took advantage of me when I was passed out drunk. When I told my friends about it, they laughed and told me to count myself lucky that I was even in a situation like that. Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing for more videos.